divine feminines, ladies, gentlemen, sirs, and those in and out of the binary. So, my phone battery is still a little bit low, so I'm going to keep this one on the down low because it's fairly simple. If you uh, if you identify as a woman who loves a man or men who have male genitalia and they at least present masculine and all that deliciousness, you should not ever be in a space where you're not interested. I'm not saying you can't say no to things. What I'm saying is part of a relationship, unless you are, what's the spectrum? Unless you're on the ACE spectrum, which a lot of people are, fully respected. I'm speaking to women who do not feel like they are on the ACE spectrum. And if you are on the ACE spectrum, you want to find a partner of any gender who is either in a similar space as you or who can understand it and feel satisfied in that. Like, nobody of any orientation should be in a space where we are asking our partners to sacrifice for us. There are far too many wonderful people in this world to be in a space where we need to be like, it has to be you and you have to sacrifice for me to feel loved and good. And that's for everybody of any orientation. Okay? So I'm talking to you, fellow ladies, that you like yourself a fellow, right? You like that he has an eggplant. We'll call it an eggplant, okay? If you like that he has an eggplant and you like the things he does with that eggplant with you, then you should never be in a space where in any other time you are talking shit about his said eggplant or that you're not interested in playing with it. You don't want to do all sorts of things with it. I'm just going to speak my mind on this. You should want to kiss that thing all the time. You should want to play with it. I'm not saying you should be like nympho. If you are, I still have no judgment. I'm just saying when you're thinking about doing stuff, if you're the type to talk shit and be like, I don't want that stuff there, then what are you doing with a man? And if he has hygienic challenges down there, there are certainly much more mature ways that you, as a lady, could bring that up that probably would make him feel a lot better about himself because if he's having challenges in that area, it's likely a lack of self esteem, not some incapability of doing it. Okay? Now, likewise, I'm going to say this to those of you that maybe you had an angry moment, or maybe you just were not thinking clearly when you broke up with someone. You should never go to a place where you are talking shit about their genitalia. Okay? It's not ladylike, it's not acceptable. I wouldn't accept it from guys either. Nobody likes that shit. If you were comfortable enjoying it while you were there, there's no reason to talk shit about it when you're done with it or when it's done with you. And likewise, if you were with them and you did not like it, or you had such feedback that you likely did not share with them, or even if you did, then that was a relationship that you voluntarily entered into, that you engaged in, that you had time that you could have brought that up in a mature, rational way and talked about it. Or you could have said, you know what? I like the emotion or I don't like the emotion. Either way, there's not enough in this relationship for me to continue on with this, especially considering my objections to either the eggplant itself or the way the eggplant is used. It's very simple. It's very easy. Very, very, very easy to be an adult in this world when we really consider it. And that includes making sure that you love your man's eggplant. And saying, if you feel you don't have to be hetero necessarily, you could be pan, you could be hetero flexible, things like that. But I'm saying you identify as a lady, regardless of the rest in there, and as that I'm only looking at if you identify as a lady, and you like a man who likes his eggplant and stuff like that, then you should be interested in his eggplant. There could be varying degrees of that. I have a Scorpio Mars, so I'm like, you should love that thing. like, why aren't you loving that thing? Don't you know how much fun it is to love that thing? Do you know how many guys that like? I'm not a promiscuous person at all, but I'm also not a prude. So I have some reasonable experience, but I've never cheated on anybody ever, and like, so I've had enough valuable experience that I can say, do you know how much a man loves it when you like his eggplant? Like, there are so many women that are like, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do this, or he's always wanting it. No, 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 no. Like, still, this is 2021. Ladies, love his eggplant. Like, love on his eggplant. I'm not necessarily saying you need to go around and tell everybody about his eggplant. He might feel a little embarrassed about that. But I guarantee you there's very likely to not be very many men that would not appreciate you offering a little more appreciation for his eggplant. And I'm not saying you have to do a bunch of other favors. You could just compliment it sometimes. You could say that you like it. You like the way it looks. You like the way it sits. You like the way that it sits in his pants. There's a lot of delightful, fun ways to play with appreciation for a man's eggplant. It's one of my favorite things when I'm with somebody, right? I don't go around doing that with people that I don't have that dynamic negotiated with first. I am not suggesting that you go out randomly to bars or things like that and start trying to find ways to compliment guys' eggplants. That's not very ladylike. It might be fun for a minute, but you could also get yourself into trouble, and you don't know whether a guy has various traumas in those spaces too. So it's just, I mean, consent is very important. But when you have somebody who's consenting to such arrangements, there are so many different fun ways to compliment it. Like one of my favorites with I want to say my former, but he's also kind of my current and also not. It's kind of a weird thing. I like the status. It's complicated. That's always kind of fit our relationship over the last 20 years. Um, but one of my favorites was, I mean, a man's got to work. A man typically likes his job and stuff like that. You don't want to make yourself a nuisance by being there all the time or texting all the time. It's appropriate to respect it. So, a, a well-timed text at lunch or something that says, I was just thinking about the way that your eggplant looked once you had your jeans all zipped up when you took the shower this morning. It's just been on my mind like all morning. Like those are, how much a man loves text like that. I tell you what, I've been, not only have I put this stuff to use in real life, but I've been researching this since I was an early horny teenager. Okay, so like, like I have a Scorpio Mars and some other Scorpio placements. I loved learning about this early on and then being able to put it to practice because it was fun. Like to be that person that instead of is like oh, what are the things we call like put your balls on or your pussy or shit like that? Everybody wants to fight. I'm over here going like, I like the way that eggplant looks over there in your pocket, or you know, the other day you went and you went to like I think scratch an itch that was over there, and the way that you moved your eggplant just a little bit. I mean, it was cool because like I would never be so forceful with it because I don't have it. It's not mine. I don't have the experience to know what that's like. And I just love the way you handled it like a man. Like you know your body and your eggplant, even with the pants and everything. Like there are fun ways you could play with doing this. And I very like if any of you do this and you have a guy that does not like this. I mean, for one thing, why are you with such a stick in the mud? For two, if you don't like that he doesn't want to play that game, then find another way to play it. Maybe he would prefer that you compliment his hands. Or maybe there's a fun way that you could talk about how much you like the way he polishes his tools or leaves his tools in a complete mess on the floor. I don't know. like find ways to love a man. It doesn't like I'll do different videos about this too because this one's specific to the eggplant. But like my advice, if you don't like it, you could go take somebody else's advice. There's plenty of people that are out there going, no, you should ice them out and use it to manipulate them. I'm not one of those people. I'm the type of person that's like, you should love that eggplant. You should find creative ways to love that eggplant. Have you ever put a sticky note on an eggplant? Have you ever used a marker to doodle on an eggplant? Like, I mean, you can have some real fun with an eggplant that does not necessarily have to include, doing very deeply intimate acts that normally people would go to when I say love on the eggplant. I'm not saying don't do those things. I really don't understand ladies that get into a relationship, especially when they started out being hypersexual and then go to a place of, oh, I don't want to give you a blowjob. It's a penis. You're like, what are you doing? Like you entice the person into a relationship like that and then you don't give none or you give it away to other guys or you didn't. No. What are you doing? Or even the gals that, yes, I get that you're benevolent and maybe you have some discomforts down there and stuff, but please don't hold on to a guy that clearly has greater needs in that area, or create a dynamic where you're comfortable. This is 2021. You could have some sort of polyamorous dynamic where you get everything you want and need from him. You don't have to put yourself in a position where you're taking on other stuff that is not of interest. Maybe you explore, see if you're on the ace spectrum, the asexual spectrum. There's all sorts of things you can do to make sure both you and your partner feel deliciously satisfied with whatever sort of life you want to live. There are so many beautiful options these days. There is no reason for any of us to be stuck in the past of ridiculously toxic dynamics with most everybody, of the heteronormativity kind. Okay? So I'm going to leave this here. Wickedly Divine Feminine says, love that eggplant. And I will talk to you in the next video.